Still on. There we go.
Testing, yes.
All right, good evening. I'd like to welcome Luke Folsom with the Milton Community Church, who will lead us in tonight's invocation.
Good evening. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, we approach your throne humbly this evening, recognizing that you are the creator and sovereign Lord over all things. God, we give you the praise and honor that is due your holy name tonight. We thank you, Lord, for giving us another day, for the breath in our lungs at this very moment, and for the opportunity to gather together for this city council meeting. Lord, thank you for the blessing that you have granted those gathered here today, for health, for safety, for freedom, for the opportunity to live in such a great community, and for the ability to work hard for the good of our city and its citizens. Your word says that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and for all who are in high positions, that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. For, you say, this is good and pleasing in the sight of God our Savior, who desires all people to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. For there is one God and there is one mediator between God and man, the man Jesus Christ, who gave himself as a ransom for all. So Lord, this evening I pray for our mayor, for our city council, for our city officials, and for all who are gathered at this meeting, that they may govern wisely according to your will. Lord, I pray that you would give them wisdom to govern amidst the conflicting interests and issues of our day. I pray that you would grant them a sense of the true needs of the people in our community. I pray that you would give them a true thirst for justice and righteousness. I pray that you would give them ability to work together in harmony, even when there is honest disagreement. I pray for peace in their personal lives and joy in the task that you have called them to. And I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give them an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in our beloved city of Milton. Father, I also lift up the brave men and women who serve as first responders in our community. Grant them wisdom and protection as they serve. I lift up our school teachers and administration and staff. Give them strength and endurance as they continue in the school year and continue investing in the next generation. And Father, I lift up the citizens of Milton. As our governing authorities lead well, may we lead peaceful and quiet lives, godly and dignified in every way. And may you receive all the glory, honor, and praise forevermore. It's in the name of Jesus Christ that I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Luke. I would like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, October 3rd, 2022 to order. The city strongly recommends that you review tonight's agenda carefully, and if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, then please bring your comment cards to the clerk as soon as possible. While the Milton rules allow a speaker to turn in their comment card up until the clerk calls the agenda item, once the agenda item is called, no more comment cards can be accepted. Will the city clerk please call the roll and make general announcements?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Be happy to call roll for the October 3rd, 2022 regular City Council meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to make a public comment, you are required to complete a yellow public comment card located on the tables just as you walk into chambers. Your comment card must be presented to the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Any comments received after the item has been called will not be accepted. All speakers, please identify yourself by name, address, and organization before beginning your comment. If you are representing an organization, an affidavit is required stating you have the authority to speak on behalf of that organization. Please review tonight's agenda, and if you would like to make a comment, please bring your comment card to me now. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outburst, or dialogue with any person speaking. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Peyton Jamison.
Here.
Councilmember Andrea Bierhoff.
Here.
Councilmember Juliette Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Carol Kirkley.
Here.
Councilmember Jan Jacobus.
Here.
Councilmember Rick Morg.
Here.
And joining our meeting tonight via Zoom is Councilmember Paul Moore.
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can, Paul. Thank you.
And just to confirm, Tammy, I am out of town. I am in Connecticut celebrating the arrival of our newest granddaughter, Kathleen Avery Curran, who arrived this morning at 2:29 a.m.
Aw, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. Mayor,
Okay.
my apologies.
Yep.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, council, I would like to have a motion to approve the meeting agenda with the addition of an executive session to discuss land acquisition, personnel, and potential litigation. And I would like to move item D under reports and presentation to unfinished business to allow for public comment. Do I have a motion on that?
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as read and with modifications.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus with a second from Councilmember Johnson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. All right, next is general public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Mayor, I do not have any general public comment. No.
Okay, so I will waive the public comment and I will ask the clerk to call the next item.
Mayor, bear with me, Mayor.
All right. Actually, what we'll do is we'll just move on to consent agenda.
Thank you,
Will the
Mayor.
city clerk please say on the items?
Mayor, that first item is approval of the meeting minutes for the September 19th, 2022 regular city council meeting. It's agenda item number 22298. Item B is approval of a recreation provider agreement between the city of Milton and the Atlanta Petanque League to provide league and tournaments at Bell Memorial Park. Agenda item number 22299. Approval of a construction services agreement with Wilson Construction Management LLC for the demolition of the northern building at Legacy Park. Agenda item number 22300. Item D is approval of Georgia Notice of Intent General NPDES permit number Georgia G610000 for 2022 Phase 2 Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Systems. Agenda item number 22301. Item E is approval of a change order number 1 to a task order with BM&K to provide pre-construction services for the Birmingham Road Middle Bridge design. Agenda item number 22302. Item F is approval of agreement for electric services between the City of Milton and Sawney EMC for the supply of electric power and energy service for Fire Station 42. Agenda item number 22303. Item G is approval of software subscription agreement between the City of Milton and Conveo LLC for the public review of Unified Development Code. Agenda item number 22304. Item H is approval of subdivision plats and revision. The first development is the property of Paul Young at 2880 Mountain Road. It's land lot 249, District 2, Section 2. It is a minor plat to subdivide the property into 3 tracts. Tract sizes will range from 1.534 acres to 7.270 acres. It's a total of 10.479 acres and a density of 0.28 lots per acre. It's agenda item number 22305. Mayor Jamison?
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor, make a motion we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Verhoff to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. So we will move on to reports and presentations. Will City Clerk please say on the first item?
Mayor, that first item is the proclamation recognizing the 2022 National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Mayor Jamison?
Thank you. I think everyone in this room knows someone that has been affected with breast cancer. And as is customary, I think Councilmember Morrig has done this proclamation over the years, so I will turn it over to him.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. This is a proclamation for 2022 National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and whereas breast cancer is the second most common cancer among women after skin cancer, accounting for about 30% of diagnosed cancers, and whereas approximately 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer at some point in their life, and whereas over 280,000 women in the U.S. will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer in 2022 alone, with nearly 50,000 more having non-invasive breast cancer. And whereas the death rate for breast cancer for women in America is higher than any other cancer except for lung cancer, with about 43,600 projected to die from it this year alone. And whereas early detection can be critical, with those found to have an early localized stage of breast cancer having a 99% 5-year relative survival rate. And whereas monthly self-exams, including awareness of breast, altered appearance, discharge, pain, or cysts can be telltale signs. And whereas women should have annual mammograms and talk to a doctor about breast cancer, whether or not they notice abnormalities, or if they have a family history of breast cancer. And whereas many lives can be saved through widespread awareness, education, and screening programs. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and city and council of the city of Milton, Georgia, dedicate and proclaim October as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Milton and call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens, given under our hand and the seal of the city of Milton, Georgia, on this third day of October 2022. In the past, I appreciate the city doing this proclamation every year. In the past, one of our former council members, Joe Longoria, would read it with me. His wife is a breast cancer survivor, and my wife had breast cancer when my children were young, approximately 20 years ago. Fortunately, she's a survivor also. But I did have a grandmother, paternal grandmother, that died of breast cancer. So as Peyton had said, the mayor had said, almost all of us are going to be impacted with breast cancer, someone being either a friend, a family member within our lifetime. So it's important that we actually continue to work on the research and going forward. I'd like to thank the Susan G. Komen Society for supporting research and ensuring that people receive the care that they need for breast cancer. And with that, I conclude my comments.
Thank you, Rick. Do we have a picture? We have anyone from the breast cancer awareness here?
I don't have anyone here, but I still would like to
Okay,
get a picture
sure.
if we could, sir.
And could we ask if there are any people who have had, either you're a survivor or you want to come forward if you've had someone in your family that's been impacted? We invite you to come up for the picture also. Pardon me? Are we going to go?
Greg, let's come down.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Great, yes. And then Carol, let's see, this way. There we go. Just a little more this way. Actually, here, everyone scoot over. Actually, maybe Carol, can you go on that side? Just even things out. Yeah, next to Andrea, yeah. Sorry. You guys ready? 3, 2, 1. Now I'm gonna take one with this. 3, 2. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, so, these are the 3 people speaking. Is this you? Yeah, so then just, you can give me 2 more and I'll call them after. Okay. Okay? Thank you. Turn that open for you now. Just right check it.
So for anyone who has come in the room late, please, if you want to speak on a agenda item, please turn in your comment card to our city clerk over there to the right to make sure we get you down. Will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
Mayor, our next item is item B. It's the overview of the Milton Forsyth IGA Water Service Project by representatives of Toll Brothers. Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I will at least start this one off. This is a topic that actually arose out of the last council agenda where I had a conflict waiver on the agenda. The genesis of this is there is a development in the northeastern section of Milton that is going to be a Toll Brothers development that straddles the jurisdictional boundaries of Milton, Fulton, Cherokee County, and Forsyth County. Forsyth County, in particular, their Water and Sewer Department is requesting to provide the water service within that portion of the development within Milton, and is requesting to provide the water and sewer service within that portion of the development in Cherokee. Because my law office represents all of those entities, Cherokee County, Forsyth County, and the city of Milton, and in fact even does some litigation work in Fulton, I have to ask all of the various jurisdictions for conflict waivers. That's the way it works. And I think I've explained that to you. And when we get to that item on the agenda, which it is on this evening's agenda, I will go over and answer any questions the council may have at this time. However, at the last council meeting, this council had some what I would consider to be practical or just sort of utilitarian questions about the development itself, which I don't have all the answers to. However, you did ask that I reach out to representatives of Toll Brothers and come and make a brief presentation to you about the development itself and perhaps field any questions that the council may have. And I do believe they're here. Mr. Mayor, it may be appropriate for you to invite them up to the podium and speak and present to the council at this time.
Absolutely. You want to come on up?
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, Ethan Underwood with Miles Hands for Talent. Our address is 202 Triple Gap Road in Cumming. You all, I'm sure you probably studied the development. It went through a preliminary plat approval with the Planning Commission a few months back. But what's being proposed is a 113-unit development, 30 of which homes are in the city of Milton. So this is a unique piece of property. It's right at the apex of Fulton and Forsyth and Cherokee counties. The Milton lots are stayed AG, so there was no zoning application that was submitted. All of those will be served by septic. However, it makes all the sense in the world to have a singular utilities provider. Forsyth County has agreed to provide water and sanitary sewer services to the entire development. But what we want to make clear to you is that there will be no sewer that's provided in the city of Milton. All of the Milton lots are septic, and not an inch of sewer line will run through the city of Milton. The Cherokee lots and the Forsyth lots will be served by sanitary sewer, but those lines will all be contained in those counties. They don't cross into Fulton County or the city of Milton. All that's being asked for tonight in this intergovernmental agreement is to allow water service to be provided from Forsyth County. It will provide water service to the Milton area as well as Cherokee. Now, I think there were some questions as well. Does Fulton County support this? Can we, what's the closest connection point? The closest connection point's in the Manor. It's about 1.5 miles away to run water lines, but you're also looking at least 2, maybe 3 creek crossings. It becomes very, very expensive and has a pretty significant environmental impact just trying to cross those with those water lines. So if we were to go through the Fulton County area. So what we are asking for is that lines from Forsyth, water lines from Forsyth County be allowed to serve this development. And obviously that's going to require your approval. And then Fulton County will have to sign off on it once they see that all the other jurisdictions have signed off as well.
Questions from council?
Mr. Mayor, one point of clarification is, the intergovernmental agreement is not on the agenda tonight. The only thing that's on the agenda tonight is whether you're going to provide my office the authority to do those things and bring them to you. But tonight is simply the overview of the project. And then should you get comfortable with the conflict waiver, the IGA comes later.
And question, Ken. So I know that's later on the agenda. If for some reason council doesn't want to vote and they vote against it, we're going to have to hire another law firm to represent the city, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So we'll talk about that later. Does any council members have any discussion right now or questions for Toll Brothers?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Okay.
Question for Toll Brothers. The units that are going to be outside of the city of Milton, can you describe for me, please, what kind of sewer solution they will have? Is it conventional sewer or is it packaged solution sewer?
It will be going through the Manor sewer plant, so it will be a conventional sewer treatment plant.
Okay, so the Manor sewer plant actually resides in Forsyth.
That's correct.
There is no part of the Manor packaged solution that, although they serve part of Milton, there is no part of the facility itself that is in Milton.
That's my understanding. That's correct.
Okay. I think that's the only, and the density of the homes being built in Milton, you said they were AG1. If I remember correctly from the packet, can you please confirm they were ranging from 1.5 acres to 3 acres? Is that correct?
I'm plowing through my presentation that we made. Hold, bear with me one second.
Sure, no worries. Thank you.
That is correct. The density within the city of Milton would be 0.66 units to the acre.
Okay, and you recall that being approximately 1.5 acres to 3 acre lots?
I believe that's correct. There are some lots that would be as small as an acre, but most fall in that acre and a half range.
Okay, but nothing less than an acre.
Correct.
Great, thank you. That's all the questions I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions, we will move on to the next agenda item.
Mayor, that next agenda item is discussion of creation of a Milton Trash and Recycling Sustainability Committee. It's presented by our Environmental Program Manager, Ms. Emily Groth.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'd like to discuss with you the creation of a Trash Recycling and Sustainability Committee. This committee is crucial in advertising and advocating for all regions and residents of Milton as we explore the future of our race haulers, residential services, and sustainability strategies. And I hope that this committee would play a vital role in creation of a new solid waste management plan and will guide Milton towards a more sustainable future.
Excuse me. Emily, could you put the mic down a little bit closer to you?
Yeah.
We're having a little hard time hearing you.
This better?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. So on September 7th, we shared with the council the results of the most recent solid waste survey, as well as the initial planning for an updated solid waste management plan. And it was at that time that we received direction to pursue such a committee. So tonight we'll go over the proposed committee framework, and this includes the roles and the projects of the standing committee. And so first and foremost, this committee would play a part in every phase of an updated recycling and solid waste management plan, as well as maintaining and driving towards future sustainability initiatives and supporting our green community certification. And we'll also go over the proposed ordinance amendments under the creation and framework. And we'll need council's guidance on how you'd like to form the committee, either with or without staff assistance and solicitation, and either citywide or district-based. So just a little overview of the proposed committee and its purpose is to help oversee, first and foremost, the development of an updated recycling and solid waste management plan for the next 10 years. And so, and while doing that, they would also advocate for general sustainability initiatives. So municipal solid waste management and understanding the system that has been in place in Milton for over 10 years is going to take a lot of time and input. And that'll be very, very valuable as we move forward towards this plan and undertaking. So that's really what I'd like to see the committee help staff with. So some of the players that will deliver on those important purposes will be a cohesive group of all these stakeholders that you see on the screen. That includes members of the committee, council, staff, residents, business owners, and our waste haulers. And the committee members will be able to dictate the understanding and time and work towards solid waste infrastructure improvements for the entire city. And so staff recommends an ordinance amendment in Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 9, for the longevity of such a committee. And so the ordinance, the proposed sections would include the committee's purpose, the formal composition of the members and potential stakeholders that would also be involved, like waste haulers, and term limits. And in general, this ordinance will be modeled after CPAC. As far as membership, the committee members will be 7 Milton residents 21 years or older. And some of the important qualities would be general understanding of the waste and recycling industry, like labor, logistics, and materials, as well as representation for several of Milton's user groups, such as homes on gravel roads, those that use accessible or backdoor services, suburban regions, and commercial users, as well as a passion for environmentalism and general planning and project knowledge. And so tonight I wanted to go over the two formation options, district-based or citywide. And in both of these options, council should consider whether you'd like city and staff assistance in solicitation for members. So option one is district-based appointment. This would be beneficial in that all districts and regions of Milton could be accounted for. However, not all districts include specific trash and recycling issues or user groups. And with this option, staff would be able to assist in solicitation for the individuals, but these individuals would be district-based and appointed by council. Option two is citywide appointments. Here you can better account for specific representation when it comes to regional issues and certain user groups. However, you may not have a member in your district. And staff would also be able to assist with this as well, but all individuals would be council appointed. And so considering these two options, I have a proposed timeline. And so after the guidance tonight would follow proposed ordinance amendments, and then a tentative first committee meeting in the new year, January or February, sometime in winter. And so tonight I'd be looking for any guidance to be able to kick off this timeline, and we can go over the two proposed options. And I'll be back with a proposed ordinance amendment.
All right. Thanks, Emily. Any questions or discussion on council on formation and stuff?
I think it's a good idea. What I'd suggest personally, maybe we leave it open where we can do citywide, but we try to find someone within our own district. But that gives us flexibility if we can't find someone that has the resident expertise or wants to be involved.
Right.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. Is council okay? Council okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other decision items, Emily?
That's it.
Emily, I have a quick question.
Yes.
And that's what's the expected duration of this committee from start to finish?
I think in the most immediate sense, it would be seeing through the creation of a new solid waste management plan for the next 10 years, all the way through the adoption process. And just from prior experience with other adoptions that have gone on, like local road safety plan, I would expect it to be similar to that. But in the end, I would want it to be more longstanding to additionally help with general sustainability initiatives.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so we moved item D to unfinished business to allow for public comment. So we will move on to first presentation. Will the city clerk please say on the items?
Mayor, that item is consideration of an ordinance to amend Appendix A, Parks and Recreation Fees and Other Charges, Chapter 34, Section 24 of the Milton City Code to change the rental rates for Fields 2 and 3 at Legacy Park. It is agenda item number 22306. Our Parks and Recreation Director, Mr. Tom McElveen. Oh, we're I do that every time.
All good.
I guess I just need to adopt that in there.
No problem at all.
Mayor.
I will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the first presentation as read.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Morrig and a second from Councilmember Cookerly to approve the first presentation as read. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? That's unanimous. So we will move on to the public hearing. Will the city clerk please say on the first item?
And item A is consideration of a resolution of the City of Milton extending existing combined moratorium on the acceptance of new alcohol applications for craft beer and/or wine markets, limited tap establishments, limited services restaurants, breweries, microbreweries, distilleries, microdistilleries, and consumption on premises other than incidental service, BYOB, farm wineries, golf courses, hotels, special events facilities, or existing establishments in the City of Milton, and on the acceptance of applications for development permits, building permits, rezonings, modifications, variances, use permits, warrants, and any other permit provided in the zoning ordinance for use of property for craft beer and/or wine markets, limited tap establishments, limited service restaurants, breweries, microbreweries, distilleries, microdistilleries, and consumption on premises other than incidental service, BYOB, farm wineries, golf courses, hotels, special event facilities, or eating establishments in the city of Milton. It is agenda item number 22309. Our city attorney, Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mayor and members of the council, I will not endeavor to read that lengthy introduction again. I think that once you've said that once, you've said it for an entire agenda item. So that is exactly what we're here to talk about. This is a moratorium that the city of Milton has had in for a while. And the way we like to run with moratoriums is, first of all, the underlying basis for a moratorium is to preserve the status quo while governments are able to put in place new regulatory constructs. In this case, it is pertaining to our alcohol code. We have endeavored to maintain the status quo to give city staff and the council sufficient time to put into place those alcohol-based, both land use entitlements as well as alcohol licensure entitlements that you believe are appropriate for the city. We are very close. And in fact, we'll be discussing that indeed on this agenda itself. But however, our moratorium is about to end. And so for the council to extend that moratorium just a little bit longer to make sure that we in fact preserve the status quo until we sort of push this metaphorical ball over the touchdown line, we need one further public hearing and one further ratification of a resolution that would extend this moratorium till November 22nd. Of 2022. We believe that is all that is going to be required for us to go ahead and get our alcohol regulations in place. Mr. Mayor, it is appropriate to open a public hearing since this is a moratorium extension. After that, the council can take action.
Great. Thanks, Ken. Do we have any public comment?
We do, sir. I'd
Okay.
like to invite Mr. Charles Morgan to the podium, please.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council of Milton. My name is Charles Morgan. I am an attorney. I'm a resident of Milton. In fact, 100 yards from here. I live about 100 yards from here.
Can you state your address for the record?
I beg your pardon?
State your address, please, for the record.
Sure, 595 Arbor North Way.
Appreciate it.
In any event, I am here as an attorney representing Billy Allen and his local business called Billy Allen's. I just wanted to mention to the council that I've known Billy and his family for over 10 years. So I'm here not only as Mr. Allen's legal representative, but I'm also here, more importantly, as a character witness for him. And I should tell you, I'm a Stephen minister at my church and a former general counsel of Bell South. So I do not make representations or characterizations of people's character very lightly. I'm very serious about it. And I can tell you without any hesitation that in my view, Mr. Allen is a really an outstanding American. He shares our values about Milton and about keeping Milton. And I can tell you personally, as a homeowner here, I'm very much in favor of it because as far as I'm concerned, this is the best city you could live in America. And I'm personally would like to make sure that we keep it that way. So with that, I'll conclude and ask if there are any questions.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any other public comment?
Yes, sir. I would like to invite Josh Rachel to the podium, please.
Ooh. Hey, how y'all doing? Thank you so much for having me this evening. This is a little more formal than I'm used to, so I'm on a 5-minute timer here. My name is Josh Rachel, 16035 Westbrook Road. I am a Milton resident. We do have plans to open a business right around the corner, Hyde Brewing, and I've reached out to some of you and introduced myself and left voicemail with some of you as well. Really, I just wanted to get in front of you tonight and let you know that we are we're local. We have businesses currently in Alpharetta, and that I guess really what I'm trying to do tonight is explain or hopefully bring clarity to what a brewery and a brew pub is. Even in the descriptor, it never even mentioned brew pub. Brew pub is a separate entity outside of a micro or a brewery for a lot of reasons. And the big deal here in Milton is to make sure that we don't have some party club that we're all going to hang out at. And that's not what we're here to do. We're family driven. We care about our city and we're local. And we are all about having 50-50. There's no discrepancies on that. Currently at Ceviche, which is our other restaurant, we're at 62, 38, and 38%. So even though alcohol can be looked at differently sometimes, it's really just part of the craft, and it's something to enjoy and just really appreciate, just like you would go to a fine restaurant and appreciate somebody who's cooking for you, a chef. I could go on and on and on. In 2017 was a pivotal moment for breweries, is when we saw legislation change what we were able to do. And in 2020, it was revised, and it really helped separate breweries and brew pubs. I've been in the brewing industry for over 10 years. I was in a micro brewery before, but being in the brew pub, restaurant comes first, and then the brew side comes second. 3 years ago, I would have told you the opposite, because it was a second thought. So I just really want to make sure that everyone really considers what we're looking at when we're classifying what we're trying to do. We're not a manufacturer. We're not going to have stuff sitting out back that smells. I've heard people talk about smells as a bad thing. We're a restaurant. We don't want it to smell if people come there. And respecting alcohol use is a bar none. I mean, I can't do what I love to do. I can't have the passion that I have if it's not respected. And so that is a huge priority for us. I guess really the big sticking point too for us, not outside of understanding what a brew pub and a brewery is going to be the special use permit. The special use permit for us is going to put us back severely, just from the timeline that associates with that and how long it takes. There's already a lot of money involved in this, and we didn't think there would be any issues with this. And we really are looking to hopefully have Milton support us in our small business. We have 4 kids. Like I said, we're local. I'm not some Joe Schmo that's coming up here trying to tell you or convince you on who I am and what we're trying to do. I'm real. We have a real business, and we have real plans to be successful and support Milton to the best of our ability. And I guess I could keep going, but if anybody's got any questions, I'd love to answer them.
I appreciate it. At this moment, we don't really go back and forth. We just do public comment, so we appreciate the comment.
Appreciate that.
Thanks. You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have another public comment?
Sir, I'd like to next invite Thiago de Paula to the podium, please. I hope I said that right. My apologies.
Sorry. My parents made it very difficult, so it's fine. It's Thiago de Paula, and I'm here with Josh and Micah. I currently operate Ceviche in Alpharetta, and I will be operating, hopefully everything going in line, the new brew pub that we're putting together. So just wanted to emphasize what Josh talked about. As currently the law states that brew pub is a food establishment, so we fall under those guidelines by the state, which really keep us in line as far as the amount of food and alcohol sales and everything else that goes along with, making sure that it is not a manufacturing, and it's more so a restaurant, family oriented, featuring something different to bring, a little something extra to the city of Milton. We all grew up here. We're very proud of, our city, and we wouldn't want to do anything that would change things. We just want to make it better. So that's really all I have to say.
Thanks. Can you state your address for the record?
Yes, so 16305 Westbrook Road.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Please call the next speaker.
That should be all. I know that there was 3 on one, but I had 2 comment cards, so that's what I'm able to allow. Is that okay? So I only had 2 cards that were submitted,
Okay. So has she turned in a comment card?
not individually.
Okay. Well, she can turn in one because we're going to talk about this later. So if Micah, if you want to go turn in a comment card, I'll call you when we talk about it later. Okay. Yep. Okay. I will close the public comment and
Mr. Mayor, just a point of order
Shoot.
very quickly, and that is, so this item can actually be voted on later in the agenda, of course, and I wanted to emphasize one of the things. So the extended moratorium will expire on November 22nd at the latest. As soon as you take formal action, it expires by rule. So that would, if you take action with respect to your alcohol codes, just wanted to emphasize that. That's all. Mr.
okay. Thank you. Okay, so we'll close public comment and we'll move under, so there's no items on our zoning agenda. So we'll move under unfinished business, which we just deferred that, or we just moved the item from. Tammy,
And
please
Mayor,
call
that
it.
item is discussion of Chapter 4 as it relates to alcoholic beverages. Our city manager will be presenting, Mr. Stephen Krokoff.
And for council's sake, we're going to have the presentation, then we'll have public comment, then we'll have discussion. Is that okay? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am before you tonight to report back on our continued progress in revising Milton's alcohol code. We'd like to thank you for your feedback during September's work session, which has allowed us to draft most of the revisions for legal review. Tonight's presentation will drill down into specific license types in the hopes of gaining some consensus. There will be no votes on this topic tonight. The objectives for tonight's presentation include refining feedback on production limits for brew pubs, breweries, and distilleries, and the proposed discontinuation of limited food service licensed restaurant and limited tap licenses as recommended by the Planning Commission. As always, I'll be using these icons on many of the following slides to indicate which types of sales are allowed at which types of locations or license type. Tonight, I'll start with brew pubs. A brew pub is any brewer that also qualifies as an eating establishment in which malt beverages, wine, and distilled spirits are licensed to be sold for consumption on premises, and in which malt beverages are manufactured or brewed subject to the barrel production limitation prescribed in state law for retail consumption in and on premise. A brew pub may serve malt beverages, wine, or distilled spirits by the drink, sell malt beverages and wine by the package, and manufacture and sell malt beverages by the drink and package with limitations. So long as it meets the requirements, a brew pub could also apply for a Sunday sales license for on-premise consumption. They may also sell alcoholic beverages during the same hours as full-service restaurants, which are Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. until 2 a.m. the following day, and on Sundays from 11 a.m. until 2 a.m., provided they have a valid Sunday sales license. The current definition in the Milton Code for a brew pub is any brewer, which is a manufacturer of beer or malt beverages, that also qualifies as an eating establishment in which beer, wine, and/or liquor are licensed to be sold for consumption on premises, and in which beer is manufactured or brewed subject to the barrel production limitation prescribed in state law for retail consumption in and on premise. The Planning Commission has proposed a definition that it will be any microbrewery that also qualifies as an eating establishment in which malt beverage, wine, and/or distilled spirits are licensed to be sold for consumption in and on premise, and in which malt beverage is manufactured or brewed and not more than 3,000 barrels in a calendar year, subject to barrel production limitations prescribed in state law for retail consumption in and on premise. Other than some of the wording, it appears that the only material divergence between our current definition and the Planning Commission recommendation will be on the barrel limitation, and we'll get into that shortly. So barrel limitations. According to state code, the limits on barrel production at brew pubs is 10,000 barrels per year, of which no more than 5,000 barrels may be sold to wholesale dealers. The Planning Commission is recommending a 3,000 barrel limitation, irrespective of retail versus wholesale. I've reviewed the alcohol codes of Alpharetta, Canton, Johns Creek, and Roswell for comparison. All four of these cities either repeat the state code limitations or explicitly state that they follow the state limitations. Now I'll come back to this slide after you hear public comment, but these will be the decision points for brew pubs. Before I move on to distilleries, does the council have any questions?
I do.
the reason for the barrel discrepancy? Is it to, yeah, what is that? Control
From what-
size?
From what I understand from the Planning Commission perspective, it's about the size of the location and the impact on the community.
All right.
Any other questions? Councilmember Moore, you have anything? Okay.
Not at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. So we'll move on to distilleries. Distilleries are manufacturers of distilled spirits, and they may sell a limited amount of the products they produce directly to the public by the drink for consumption on premises and by the package for off-premise consumption. Distilleries may only sell distilled spirits at retail that have been manufactured on-site or another of the distiller's solely owned locations, and they may only sell to consumers who visit the distiller's manufacturing location. Distilleries may be permitted to serve distilled spirits by the drink for on-premise consumption and sell distilled spirits by the package for off-premise consumption. Distilleries may sell alcoholic beverages Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. until 10 p.m. and on Sundays from 11 a.m. until 10 p.m., provided they have a valid Sunday sales license. So I'm not going to read the definitions, as you could see from the slide, that the definitions you see fairly well reflect one another, except for the barrel limits. The definition you see, however, is the definition combination of distillery and microdistillery, and we'll be getting into that shortly as well. But the differentiation you see is under our current ordinance, there is no limit for manufacturing at distilleries, but 15,000 barrels for microdistilleries. And what the Planning Commission is recommending is that we limit it to 3,000 barrels for the same reasons that I said before regarding brew pubs. So from a state code perspective, they do not limit barrel production at distilleries except to limit the number of barrels that can be sold at retail for on-premise consumption and off-premise package sales, and that's 750 barrels. There is no definition of microdistillery in state code. As I said, the Planning Commission is recommending 3,000 barrels per year. In comparing the same four cities, Alpharetta and Johns Creek have no mention of a manufacturing limit except for the limit sold at retail. Canton has no mention of distilleries as far as I can tell, and Roswell doesn't seem to mention the limit, and I'll assume that they defer to the state code limits on that. And we'll get into the decision point, and I'm going to come back to this again after you've had an opportunity to hear public comment. But what we'll be seeking is the barrel limitation, which will likely dictate whether we'll move to a microdistillery definition or a distillery definition. If it's below 15,000 barrels, I would recommend just going with the microdistillery definition and moving on from there. Before I move on to breweries, are there any questions regarding distilleries?
Just a question. You'll be bringing this back up when you come back up to speak. We'll be able to see those slides of the definition.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Steve, I have a quick question, please. I think when we talked about this last, one of the questions that was posed would the barrel limitation at 3,000 be restrictive where a reasonable business could not succeed with that limitation? Have we done any further research on that?
My research has been limited talking to the one distiller/brewer that we have in the city of Milton. And I'm sure he'll come up and speak if he's here, but in the conversation that I had with him, the 3,000 barrel limit appeared to work with his plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. I'll move on to breweries. Breweries are manufacturers of malt beverages and may sell a limited amount of the products they produce directly to the public by the drink or by the package. Breweries may only sell malt beverages at retail that have been manufactured on-site or another of the brewer's solely owned locations, and they may only sell to consumers who visit the brewer's manufacturing location. Breweries may be permitted to serve malt beverages by the drink for on-premise consumption and sell malt beverages by the package for off-premise consumption. Breweries may sell alcoholic beverages Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. and on Sundays from 11 a.m. until 10 p.m., provided they have a valid Sunday sales license. Currently, similar to distilleries, breweries have the Planning Commission is making, the only recommended real change is moving the name from brewery to microbrewery and limiting the barrels. So currently, we have no limit for breweries, but 15,000 barrels for microbreweries. The Planning Commission is recommending 3,000 barrel limitation irrespective. From a state code perspective, they have no manufacturing limit for barrel production for breweries, but they may not sell more than 6,000 barrels at retail, which means by the drink or by the package, per calendar year. Again, the Planning Commission's recommendation is 3,000 barrels irrespective of wholesale or retail. In looking at the same four cities, Alpharetta has no limit on manufacturing, but limits barrels sold at retail to 3,000. Johns Creek references and repeats the state code limitations. Canton has no mention of limits. And Roswell simply defines breweries as one that manufactures more than 15,000 barrels, and a microbrewery as one that manufactures less than 15,000 barrels, which is our current definition. Decision points that will come up after public comment will be the barrel limitations related to breweries. And just like the distilleries, if we're going to be going less than 15,000, I would recommend that we just go with the distillery definition and eliminate breweries. Before I move on to limited food service restaurants, are there any questions regarding breweries?
Yes, Steve, it sounds like with breweries and microbreweries, they can only sell the product that's manufactured on premises or at the remote facility.
That is correct.
Thanks.
They have to, in state law, it has to be, the label has to be solely owned by the manufacturer.
Okay.
Okay. So a limited food service restaurant is a place of business that meets all the requirements of a restaurant, but does not meet the requirements of an eating establishment, and must derive a minimum of 30% of its annual gross food and beverage sales from the sale of prepared meals and food. It may sell malt beverages, wine, and distilled spirits by the drink for on-premise consumption. The hours are currently from 9 a.m. until 11 p.m., except those licensed before October 18th of 2021, and those can be open until 2 a.m. We only have one limited food service licensee, and that is the one that was licensed before that date. So the Planning Commission has recommended discontinuing the license. And in reviewing the council's options, and you do have an array of options, I believe that we can break this out from most to least. So the council's range of options include discontinuing the license with no renewals, discontinuing new license applications and only allowing renewals, discontinuing new licenses and allowing renewals for a limited amount of time or sunsetting, and of course, allowing new licenses and renewals. Before I move on to limited tap licenses, do you have any questions? Does the council have any questions regarding limited food service restaurants? A limited tap license is a license for an establishment that does not sell food that provides a limited selection of craft beers on tap for on-premise consumption. They sell craft beer from 5 or fewer taps for consumption on premise with a limit of 48 ounces per individual in a calendar day. They can serve craft beer by the drink Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. until 10 p.m. Planning Commission is recommending discontinuing limited tap license, for which we have 1 licensee. The council has a range of options similar to the last one, including discontinuing the license with no renewals, discontinuing new licenses and only allowing renewals, discontinuing new licenses and allowing renewals for a limited amount of time or sunsetting, and of course, allowing new licenses and renewals. Does the council have any questions regarding limited tap licenses? Mayor and council, that is all I have. When you are prepared, I will come back before you and we will hit the decision points. Does that work?
Yep. If we have no questions for city manager, we'll, oh, you do? Okay.
So, Mr. Krokoff, there's no backstory to why the planning commission picked 3,000, because according to that authority in the sky, a barrel of beer in the United States is 31 gallons. So that's the equivalent of 330 12-ounce beer. So if that's true, I don't know if it is, but that just seems very arbitrary and small.
I can only relay to you what was relayed to me. I have Robin here, who is with the Planning Commission, if maybe
Well,
you would like a further.
And they're all smart people on the planning commission. It just seems, I just want to make sure it's not too arbitrary. I don't know what you all are thinking, but
Fair point.
yeah, I don't know how you arrive at I don't know the size of a barrel, but I don't know how you get to 3,000. And I understand controlling growth, but I'm not 100% sure that's the path. So, to be discussed and see what you all think.
Very fair point. Any other council questions? All right. How many comment cards do we have, Tammy?
We have just a few.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is your last call for turning in the comment cards, because we'll close it after this, and we will call the first speaker.
Mayor, I'd like to invite Ms. Micah to the podium, please. Oric.
Hello, my name is Micah Oric. I live at 16035 Westbrook Road in Milton. I am coming here today to talk about a special use permit for a brew pub. I own Ceviche. I've owned it for 15 years, started in Roswell. It's a family-owned business. The one in Alpharetta has been open for almost 7 years. And like Thiago said earlier, we are majority food over alcohol. And when it was brought up where to go and opening a brew pub, we thought Milton would be the best. We have 4 kids. Kids go to school in Milton. I grew up in Milton. I went to the old Milton High School. So of course I wouldn't want to be here. And then there was talks after signing the lease and, giving lots of money to get everything started about a special use permit. I respect small town of Milton and trying to keep its preserve, like not overselling alcohol, becoming bars. I started in Roswell when it was very small as well. Historic Roswell is very serious about the same things, even though now it's way different. But today I just really want to express that hoping maybe there's an exemption for brew pubs being able to have its own category, since we're not really a restaurant. Well, we are a full service restaurant, but we also have the name a brewery inside of it as well. So just one, not delaying us or hoping we don't get pushed back significantly based on the time frame of being approved with a special use, and then also not limiting our barrels, because we want to succeed and we want Milton to succeed as well.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Mayor, I'd just like to remind under unfinished business, the comment allotment time will be 2 minutes. I
Okay.
just wanted to confirm that with you.
Yep. Thank you.
Mayor, I would like to invite Mary Cronk to the podium, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Mary Cronk, and I live at 600 Hickory Mill Lane in Milton. Tonight, I'm speaking in support of the recommendation from the Planning Commission to remove the limited food service license. I'm hopeful that council will not be swayed by emotional appeals when considering this issue, but bases the decision on facts and data. So let's look at some facts. Okay. Guys see this?
Ms. Kronk, if you want to make it smaller, you can use the dial at the top to see more or less.
It's okay. Well, it's
No,
the,
just the dial.
I'm sorry.
the roller dial.
I'm gonna get you an extra 30 seconds, so don't.
Yeah, I will.
it's okay.
I'll
Thanks.
restart
I
it.
don't want to.
Sorry.
Okay. So let's look at the facts. Back in the summer of 2019, or perhaps before that time, a consultant indicated that in order to get businesses to come to Milton, we needed to follow industry trends, and one way to do that was to increase our alcohol to food ratio. The 70-30 ratio for a limited food service restaurant originated from that advice. But was that consultant accurate? If you look, Milton is the only city of our neighboring North Fulton cities that has a 70-30 ratio. And apparently we didn't need that, and neither did these other cities, because they have very successful restaurant communities. I'm hurrying because I didn't know it was 2 minutes. As you can also see, Milton doesn't allow bars or nightclubs, and some people mistakenly think that if an establishment has a bar or a bar area, it's considered a bar, but that's not the case. A bar is defined by a 75-25 ratio. So take a look at how close the limited food service restaurant at a 70-30 ratio is to a bar or a nightclub at 75-25. It's only 7% different. So even though all of our restaurants have, many of ours have bar areas, they're not bars, but they've been extremely successful under the 50-50 ratio. I don't think the 70-30 ratio is needed for a successful restaurant community. Removing 70-30 is not about one business, but it's about the future of Milton. It's about keeping Milton Milton and following the citizen-backed 2040 comp plan. It's about listening to the recommendations of your planning commission that you all appointed. We don't need to turn Milton into Buckhead and allow near bars or near nightclubs in our city. And I don't know of a single person who moved to Milton because of our nightlife scene. It's usually the exact opposite. I'm sure that you as mayor and council feel a great deal of pressure when you're confronted by an emotional crowd attempting to make you feel that you're being unfair. Most people don't understand the issues and are easy prey to emotional pleas and half-truths. Please consider what is in the best.
We're not going to have any boos, outbursts, or clapping. We're going to respect every speaker, no matter who they are. But Ms. Kronk, your time has expired, okay?
And that's all I have to
Okay,
say. Thank you, guys.
All right. Will you please call the next speaker?
Mayor, I invite Mary Guinea to the podium, please.
All right, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Guiney. I live at 12693 Lacoma Trace, about 50 yards that way. And I'm here to talk about diversity in recreation. So right now in Milton, there is something for everyone. We have places for coffee, we have places for lunch, fast food, sports bars, and now finally, we have live music, a vibrant nightlife, along with fine dining, all in one establishment. And still, there's lots of places to take your kids while they're young. There's so much to do. There's so many kids out there on the green. I would have loved that when my kids were little. Now that my kids are older, do I want to be out there on the green with all those kids? Sure, sometimes for about 10 minutes. And then I want to go to Billy's. And I get a sophisticated, grown-up night out like I did before I had kids, like I look forward to doing once I'm finally an empty nester. His salmon is amazing. I don't know if you've been there. I don't know if you've had the shrimp and grits. The filet is really good. He's got meal specials almost every night of the week. The food is really the dominant feature. The fact that he's open late is also a great benefit to single people, People who, all those parents out there on the green, they want to be at Billy's with me, but they got to get a babysitter. So when they get a babysitter, you get to keep their entertainment dollars right here in Milton, because they're going to go to Billy's too. He's got live music, he's got dancing. Who doesn't want to do that when you have a babysitter? We all want to let loose every now and then, and I don't really see what's wrong with that. There's something for single people, something for young families, something for empty nesters. Milton needs to have all of it. Let's keep our entertainment dollars here, and that's your tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Will you please call the next speaker? Everyone, please hold your applause. We have decorum rules here. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to invite Mr. Billy Allen to the podium,
All right,
please.
thank you.
Hello, City Council. My name is Billy Allen. I reside at 440 Glen Courtney Drive in Atlanta. Still trying to get up here. I just can't find a place I can afford just yet. But let me just start out by saying this, and I'll be very fast. I don't want to beat dead horses. I was standing right here before most of you a year ago. And this entire plan for me to be here was an invitation. It was headed by your former mayor, some developers, commercial brokers, and they selected me to be here because I have the capacity and the experience to fall within the confines of every person's comment that I have heard here. I can understand preservation. What a pristine, beautiful city this is. In this point in time, I remember leaving here, and when the vote went down and I was approved, I immediately started to speak and say, I'm nervous because I don't want to have to come back here and do this again, provided that I just do what Billy Allen's does, you know? Since that time, I have been restricted from sidewalk signs, from linen shades to block the sun, to soft LED white lights in the windows that face the cornfield. And me being that only license, I'm sure you can understand why I do feel like I am definitely being targeted. The worst complaint that I've had was a noise violation, and I sent a strawberry cake and flowers over, and my phone number and all these things that would be the only reason that I thought maybe I'm still standing here, but I guess it's not. I just wish that we could keep our word with each other. The word grandfather license was offered to me, and moratorium was all over the place. And now here I stand in front of you again, and it can't ethically or morally be right for me to come up here and invest the type of dollars that I have only to be at the mercy of someone who is not comfortable with me, doesn't know me, didn't bother to come in to see what I do. I don't believe any of you have been there. I wish you had.
Time has expired.
It's an open invitation. I'm sorry.
Time's expired,
time's
Mr.
up.
Allen.
Well, thank you for your time. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, and we
uh,
will be voting on this October 17th. There will be no vote tonight, just for the record.
Mayor, I'd like to invite Lori Evans to the podium, please.
Hello, I am Lori Evans, and I am a Milton resident of over 20 years. I live right outside that circle on Crabapple and Crabapple Chase. The address is 12220 Crabapple Chase Drive. My children attended Milton High School, and I'm here to speak on behalf of keeping Billy Allen's right here in Milton open and viable for all of us residents who are now empty nesters and want a place to go for fun, but also to respect this community. Now, there are times when I've gone there for dinner, but there are times when I've just gone there to dance, to have a birthday party, to be with friends, and to think that that would just go away and now I'd have to go back to Alpharetta or back to Roswell or, God forbid, back to Buckhead. No, that's not where I want to be. I want to spend my tax dollars in my backyard. When I came out of quarantine and I drove out of my neighborhood, and I'm right at the end of that circle, And I saw all these buildings coming up in my neighborhood. I was excited to think that I could have a viable place to be in my hometown. Let's keep it there. Billy's is a great place. It's upscale. It's awesome. And we have a wonderful time. It's not tacky. We don't need to go to Buckhead. We don't need to bring Buckhead here. This is a beautiful place in a beautiful city. And I'm proud to have them in my backyard. And I'm proud to be a part of that community that I've always been. Let's keep them here and keep that license the way it was promised. The world has changed. We've got to keep our promises, and we've got to stick to what we promise people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Will you please call the next speaker?
Dakota Allen, you're invited to the podium, please.
How you doing, Mr. Mayor and everybody else? My name's
Thank you.
Dakota Allen. I'm the son of Billy Allen. Let me fix this. So I just want to say a few things to you all.
Please state your address for the record.
440 Glen Courtney Drive, Atlanta, Georgia.
Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir. For one, my father was brought here as the anchor tenant for Crabapple Market. To me, what that means is that he was brought here not only because of his reputation and his previous establishments, which none of them have any bad reputations. And by the way, Buckhead, I'm not sure why, with what the lady said, is brought up in a negative connotation up until recently. You know, in the late 80s, early 90s, I'm pretty sure that's where Arthur Blank chose to live and other multimillionaires, West Paces Ferry. So, you know, it is a pretty respectable area up until crime changed. With that, I just want to say that changing the license on my father and us, it hurts a few things, including yourselves, in my opinion, which may not be worth much. But let's see. One, the tax dollars, as mentioned. Two, risking hurting a local business owner in future's development and retirement. Three, risking harming the future of high-end development owned by local Milton residents, the Beechams. Do you want to risk the potential positive growth in Milton? Do you want to risk the potential of Milton becoming a city known to create license adjustments for small businesses owners that would inevitably put them out of business or go against previous promises made by the city? And do you want to be known to change your word? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Will you please call the next speaker?
Ann Parkinson, you're invited to the podium, please.
My name is Ann Parkinson. I live at 2029 Heritage Walk, about halfway between here and Billy Allen's. I actually invested twice in Milton. Once long ago up in Triple Crown when I had smaller kids, and I invested again because of the creativity and innovation that both developers were bringing to downtown Crabapple. Not just one developer, but both developers. I walk my dog every evening, sometimes as late as midnight, depending on how long I'm working. Noise is not an issue. I hit Starbucks in the morning. There's no issues with Billy Allen's. His business model is unique because he invests in live music, and it's not easy to get it here. A lot of people enjoy music. Music is how we all probably learned how to walk. So I'm here to support Billy Allen's. I live extremely close. I think I have a great perspective on how that business has been operated over these last several months. And I'd like the city to think about continuing to be innovative and creative and flexible. Keep promises as well. It's always a big one that I tell my kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you please call the next speaker?
That concludes public comment.
Okay, so we'll close public comment. And Steve, if you want to go back down with your presentation? Let's go one by one. And just for the record, Steve, we're just giving you direction for you to present something on the 17th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Depending on what we're able to accomplish tonight, I'll be back before you next Monday again. We'll be certainly be talking about the use permit aspect, and Robin will be up here, but I'll also be looking for some feedback on some more mid-level things.
Okay.
I'm trying to stall while my screen turns on. There we go. Mayor and council, regarding brew pubs, there are two things that I really need tonight, if we can. Again, you're not voting on it, but if we can coalesce around something regarding the barrel limit, and then also whether or not you would like to see that as requiring a city council approved use permit, or whether you would like to do that as by right, similar to a restaurant, because I believe I got a little bit of mixed feedback at the last meeting. So those are the two questions I'm going to seek answers to if I can tonight.
All
Again,
right.
you're not voting on it. If you don't all agree, that's okay. You're going to have another bite at this in 2 more meetings, very likely next Monday and then again on the 17th.
Okay. Council, I know I have a very strong opinion on this, but I'll hear from council first. Anybody?
No, you lead.
Okay. I believe if it's 50-50, it should be by right. I think that's one of the major issues why we're even here today. So if it's 50-50, in my opinion, it's a restaurant. And I believe the barrel limit should be set by the state, which is what seems like it would be going on everywhere else. So that's just my opinion. So, I mean, because anything other than the state, in my opinion, is an arbitrary number. So,
Well,
Do we have information with other breweries in the area or surrounding cities on their barrel production just to compare, like are they under 15? Is everybody under 15,000? It's based on their space that they have. Like, did we look at other cities for their barrel production is my question.
So my answer is going to be hearsay because I did not speak to the owners of those. I did not speak to any other brew pub owners. I got information on breweries and distilleries. I have no further information on what a brew pub needs to survive.
Didn't you have a list of what the other jurisdictions have? Or
I
is that
do.
just brewery?
well, can I say something?
sure, yeah,
Okay,
go.
so I don't want to underestimate the planning commission because typically they dive in. But I think that we need to see that rationale before I would feel comfortable approving it. It seems like a low number and you don't want to set somebody off on a, I mean, I would assume they know their business, but it's hard for me to understand that number. Let's just leave it at that. So I'd like to see that before we just automatically convert to the state because maybe there is some reason, or maybe there's some negotiable level that would work for the planning commission and for us that is not onerous. You know, I just think we ought to just see if there's anything on that. As far as the 50% food, 50% alcohol, I mean, I see your point. It is what it is. And that is kind of a normal thing that we're looking to attract, I think, right? So, I mean, yeah, that has appeal.
I also think if we're going to do a use permit on the brewery and you have a by right 50-50, you're going to get more. I mean, everyone's going to try to work on the 50-50 also, which would be good. So,
Mr. Mayor, may I offer some thoughts?
sure.
I think that you've got a great idea with the by right coming for the use permit rather than a use permit if it's 50-50. I think that is the kind of incentive that I think have talked about, but maybe hadn't landed on. I think that may be something that worth exploring for us. I know too, we heard this evening some concern about the timeline to accomplish the securing of a use permit. And if we've got a business that has, in this case, proposed that their business model would generate even a stronger food to alcohol balance than 50-50. I think I heard 60-40 or even greater than that. I think that is something that I could support. With regard to the barrel limits, I only offered this at this point. I think Mr. Mayor, your idea and Councilwoman Cookerly's idea about exploring a little bit further some of the details behind what the Planning Commission chose to drive their suggestion. I also believe that it should be not necessarily just about the consumption, but about scale, where we don't necessarily want the scale of an outfit to be so commercial that it's taken away from a restaurant type of environment where it's become more about the commercial manufacturing of the beer or distilled spirits. So I just offer that for consideration.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And also, I think we probably have 10 in the whole area, all the breweries and the microbreweries. I'm sure between now and the 17th, we can talk to each of them and figure out what their barrel limits are and stuff too.
That'd be a great idea.
Can I, Mayor and Council, could I just, I have to correct one thing I just said. I did speak to a brew pub that is interested in coming into the city of Milton. And they voiced to me that the 3,000 barrel limitation would be problematic.
Okay. Anybody have any? Rick?
I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more too about the 3,000 barrel limit. And again, I respect Planning Commission and the work that they've done for us. I'm not in this industry, so I have no idea what that impact is. I'd like to know a little bit more before we scale it back from 15,000 down to 3,000. I think where we've expressed a lot of concern in the past is the alcohol to food ratio. And the only thing I see different about a brew pub is they're going to actually manufacture their beer there, or their malt beverages. So I guess I'm leaning more towards the buy right, because what I see it as two things. Manufacturing, they could do package sales, which doesn't fall into the 50-50. The 50-50 is the consumption, correct?
The 50-50 for the purposes of an eating establishment, which is a brew pub, is food over food plus beverage. However, you net out, correct me if I'm wrong, you net out the revenue associated with the packaged sales.
That's my understanding.
So that's removed from the formula, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because that's when we get back, I think, to the barrel limit. You have to look at, okay, if you have a eating establishment where you're serving your malt liquor, your beer, that's one thing, and they would fall within the code. The question is then, what's the impact if you put the restriction of 3,000 or whatever level we choose? So that would be my comment as it pertains to this.
And just as a reminder, there are state barrel limitations to the retail side. They would just be further restricting.
5,000.
Right. So they'd be further restricting that, as well as any other ability to wholesale.
Correct.
Good, thank you.
So it sounds like you got most of what you look for. You good?
Yeah, that was great.
Okay.
I'll be back before you. That was very valuable. I appreciate that. I'm going to move on now to the decision points on distillery and micro distillery. And I apologize, I'm trying to catch up in my pages. So if you recall, the definition for distillery, micro distillery, and the Planning Commission for micro distillery, for micro distillery on either side were very similar, except for the barrel limitation. And that was for a micro distillery in the city of Milton, it was less than 15,000 barrels. For a distillery, there was no limit. The Planning Commission is recommending no more than 3,000 barrels. State limits, they have no manufacturing limitation for wholesale. However, they cannot sell more than 750 barrels directly to consumers, either by the package or by the drink at retail. So ultimately, the only real decisions I probably need from you all tonight is if you land somewhere on a barrel limit, that's great. But if you're going to be below 15,000, I think it's probably safe to go with the micro distillery definition, and then we'll fill in the barrel limitation as we move along. Truthfully, we probably don't have the space in the city of Milton for a true brewery or distillery for that matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Where the decision points slides on
The
this?
decision points on this are the barrel limitations, and if you're going to stay under the 15,000 number, I would recommend that you potentially give the guidance to go with the micro distillery definition only.
And this is use permit, right? All this.
This is a use permit.
Got it.
And just collapse this category.
Yes.
Yes, the micro distilleries and distilleries would become one.
Yeah, I guess I have to comment on what you said. I don't see with our limited commercial space where we really have a spot where we're going to have a big distillery. And then I'm okay with saying let's in Milton do micro distillery. And again, the same question I've got with the previous is the barrel limit. I have no idea in that industry what's viable. And I'd like to know a little bit more about that before we make a decision. And maybe the Planning Commission has that, but I think that would be where it'd be good to get input from people in that industry that have micro distilleries to try to understand how that fits in Milton.
The only micro distillery or micro brewer I spoke with is the one that is currently in Milton. And he conveyed to me that the 3,000 would work for his business model. I have not spoken to any outside the city, and I will certainly be happy to do so.
Do we have any other people that are potentially considering coming with micro distillery within Milton right now?
I am not aware of it.
Okay.
Councilmember Moore, you have anything?
I have nothing to add at this time. Thank you.
Are you good with that? Does anybody else have anything? Steve, are you good with that?
I have what I need for that. So I'm going to go to the brewery, and it's really the same thing. I don't know that we need to go through the same rigmarole. They are very similar, similar to the distillery. If you're not going to go over the 15,000 barrels, we probably should just collapse it into the micro brewery definition, and we'll do the same research that you'd like for the micro breweries.
Is council okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Just one quick question. Steve, when we look at neighboring cities, are most of them that have these type of establishments, are they microbreweries? Like in Alpharetta and different places?
It depends. Microbreweries are not a creation of state law. It's a creation of local law. You don't find microbreweries and microdistilleries in state law. However, municipalities have created that subcategory to be able to differentiate between the larger operation and the smaller operation. So I have seen it in places like Roswell. If I recall correctly, I don't believe Alpharetta differentiates, but there are cities across the state and across the country, for that matter, that do differentiate between the micros and the regular distilleries and breweries.
Again, for a brewery, I look at our footprint and what we have in limited space. I don't see the need to have a brewery, something that would be producing more than 15,000 barrels within Milton with what we have as far as our business.
Steve, I'll ask you to consider one more thing when you're doing your fact finding. And that is, if it is a larger operation, what kind of deliveries are they receiving? What frequency, hours of the day that those deliveries for a larger operation might encroach in the quality of life for the residential aspect of Crabapple in particular? In other parts of town, that may not be as significant, but if I think about some of the early Milton days when we were working with some of the restaurants, even the restaurant deliveries oftentimes were at very early hours. And because of the limited space for parking areas and commercial deliveries, the significant trucks, whether it be food deliveries or frozen deliveries, were idling on the street outside those residential units. And I remember we used to get pretty significant number of complaints from the residential community. So in terms of making sure we're not creating a commercial zone where our residential community is the staging area for those deliveries, I'd like to make sure that we avoid that.
Understood. And next week, when Robin is presenting the use permits with the recommendations from the Planning Commission, they're all conditioned on delivery times as well.
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, that's good.
I'm going to move on to limited food service restaurants. And this was one where the Planning Commission was recommending discontinuing the license. And as I stated before, the council has a fairly wide spectrum of options here. And I'm just throwing out four that kind of fall, in each 25th percentile of your options. I'm sure you can mix and match should you choose to. But what I provided you is the most intrusive, discontinue license with no renewals, and moving across the spectrum from discontinuing new licenses. That would be, so in other words, no further limited food service restaurants. And you would only allow the consideration of renewals going forward. The third one, moving further along the spectrum, would be discontinuing new licenses and only allowing renewals for a limited amount of time, for, in other words, a sunset, maybe a couple of years or something along those lines, to allow them to potentially change their business model if that's something that is doable or even wanted. And then, of course, continuing to offer the license as it is today. I open that up for discussion or any questions.
So limited food is specifically 70-30 or 70-25?
70-30.
70-30, okay.
And continuing to offer new licenses, that means anyone that's applying after the moratorium, they can get 70-30s, correct?
That is correct. That would mean no changes from where we were in October of 21.
Okay. And the second option is allowing it as is, just no new 70-30s, correct?
And that would allow any currently licensed business to continue to, you have to renew your license every year per Georgia code. That would allow them to continue to apply for that renewal every year.
Okay. Council discussion? Councilman Jacobs?
It's kind of a torn situation here. Personally, I feel that we should just stay with the 50-50. I think that works well for us, and I think it works well in a lot of other cities. However, I'm conflicted by the fact that a city council approved the one we had, allowed for that investment, and then to pull that just doesn't sit well with me. So my personal opinion at this point would be no new ones, stick with 50-50, but allow the current to reapply as it has to every year.
And I'll kind of echo your point because I sat on that council and business supplies, I was under the assumption is they're going to be our business here and they're going to, as long as you go under the 70-30 rules, well, as long as you should continue to operate your business. And so I'm perfectly fine with keeping the current one intact and just not having any new ones. That's kind of where I stand on it.
I have and that makes sense. Well, let me ask this question. That incremental 20%, and I want to be very respectful to everybody here. I'm not trying to nibble around the edges here. That additional 20%, is that a big jump? It's a big jump to go from 30% to 50%, even after all this bragging on the food? It is? Okay.
I'm not sure how to answer the question.
Well, I'm looking beyond you, Mr.
Okay. All right, that
I'm
helps.
looking at Mr. Allen. Yeah. Okay, good.
This is.
Yes, sir, please.
Council has every right.
If
Yeah,
council's
I would
okay,
love your direct
is
response.
council okay with that?
Is that-
Yes,
yeah,
please.
Okay, thank you.
Billy?
It's very simple. It's a mathematical equation. It's not a matter of me not wanting to serve food.
Sure.
In order for me to provide you with quality entertainment, not just entertainment, you can go down to 2 or 3 municipalities around here. You can find just about anything on that level. But all of mine, I've got more Grammy winners, more platinum record artists, more people in my 40 years as a singer also. So in order for me to afford that 20%, okay, keeps me off the fence. Now, this past weekend, I'm all past 30%. I'm not trying not to sell food.
I suspected that.
Yeah, but
You
it's
just need
it's
the
a simple
latitude.
matter of a balance of it's mathematical to me.
Right.
It's not me wanting to, okay, it's mathematical. And that was the way it was explained when I got here. Okay, so with all due respect, it's all it is. It's about numbers. It's not about, and the lower level, I don't do. I don't do, you know, the people that I bring, anybody that's seen the people that I bring,
Yeah.
they're national. They're not just.
Yeah, now I understand.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
you
yeah,
made
it's
the
a
point.
mathematical equation, and thank you for that time.
Yeah, so look, I mean, I'm with you. It's just, we are aiming for a 50-50 environment. But I don't think, I mean, I'm not interested in torturing anybody that we previously gave our word to. So maybe that's the wrong word. Not that it would be, well, you know what I mean.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you. I'd just like to remind council that we're not necessarily legislating on behalf of one business or not. This evening, this is considering all of what Milton is trying to do for our present, but also for our future. I will offer that if the existing business is meeting those parameters that he was committing to with the 70-30, I certainly appreciate that, but I also remember that we have been very clear from the get-go that the way our city license works is it's renewed every single year, and that we are offered the consideration for any reason to approve it or not approve it based on the direction of the city. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact that the city still has an authority to say, we don't approve something, even if it has met those terms and conditions. Now, I also believe that there should be some consideration for an existing business that has been acting by all rules and regulations in accordance. If we're going to change the rules, that we should at least offer a year for that business to amend its business model to shoot towards that 50-50 mark and work together with the city in that business to get them closer to that 50-50 number.
Thank you. Rick?
Could you tell us, Steve, when did Billy Allen's open? When?
Thank you. Of 22, yes.
Okay, so we're roughly 6 months into his business so far under the current license. I guess where I'm at, this was something that was precarious when we first looked at it, because I think the standard is we really do want to have, for the most part, 50-50. That's what we're trying to look at, more restaurant establishments. I think we were told this was the direction more and more businesses were going. And then when we dig a little bit deeper, we found our neighboring cities aren't doing the 70-30 per se. But we do have a 70-30. I'm not for, right now, just my input, opening it up for new licenses. When does the moratorium expire?
November 22nd.
Okay, so November 22nd?
Latest, at the latest,
Okay,
yes,
so
sir.
when we vote on if we vote on this later this month,
That's
that's
correct.
when we decide what direction we want to go.
If you vote on it, if we vote on
vote on
it
it.
on the 17th, Councilman Morg, I'll recommend that we discontinue the moratorium.
Right, okay. Okay. So I guess I'm not in favor right now of saying, let's add more establishments like this. Let's add more licenses. I don't think that's what we're shooting for. But if someone's made the investment, every year, Billy Allen's would have to come back and actually apply and make sure that they're complying with what it is that they stated and what their license allows, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, I guess that's more where unless there's other extenuating circumstances that we need to consider, but I think those may come under code enforcement. If they're abiding by this and we've only had 6 months, I guess I'm okay in not adding new 70-30, but basically look at renewal of this license on an annual basis and let him see where his business goes.
All right. Anybody else? I think that gives you some good direction, Steve.
It does very much. I appreciate
Okay,
that.
good. Thank you. All right, let's go on to the next one.
The final piece I have tonight is the limited tap license. The limited tap license, if you'll recall, is the non-food establishment. We only have one in the city currently, in the Crabapple area, and it's limited to 5 taps, and
the limitation per person of 48 ounces per individual in a calendar day. The Planning Commission did recommend that we discontinue this license, and similar to the last license, I've presented the same 4 options.
Okay. I think based on the last discussion, is everybody on the same page was
Mhm.
doing the same as last?
Yes.
Please.
All right, there we go. Councilmember Moore? Paul?
Yes, I support that. Thanks.
Okay.
Mayor and Council, unless you have any questions for me, that is all I have
I
tonight.
tell you what, good job, Steve.
Thank you.
Yep,
That was
thank you.
Very, very
Thank
good
you.
job. Thank you for everyone coming out, and we'll vote on this on the 17th. We'll move on to new business. Will the city clerk please say on the first item?
Mayor, that item is consideration of a conflict waiver to authorize Gerard and Davis LLP to represent Forsyth, Cherokee, and Milton in preparing an intergovernmental agreement to allow Forsyth County to provide water service to a development located within Milton, Fulton, and water sewer services to that portion of the development located within Cherokee. It was deferred at the September 19th, 2022 regular city council meeting. It's agenda item number 22293. Our city attorney, Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, and members of the council, just to reemphasize, you are not approving the intergovernmental agreement. Should you see fit to approve this conflict waiver, I will bring the intergovernmental agreement back to you at a later date. This is a complicated transaction simply because it involves multiple jurisdictions. That's not your fault. That's not anyone's fault. It's just the way this has gone. But I will be happy to go through that intergovernmental agreement very carefully. I am very mindful of the interests of Milton, what you are amenable to, and most assuredly what you are not. Should the council not want to approve the conflict waiver, as the mayor alluded to earlier, you will need to retain an additional lawyer to look at this. That's certainly fine as well. But I would offer to you that I do not believe there is a conflict inherent that I cannot zealously represent the interests of Milton in this. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
All right, thanks, Ken. Carol?
I am 100% in favor of having you represent us on this, my 2 cents, but I know your experience with this exact sort of thing, and I know that you're extremely mindful of sewer and all the ramifications, so that's where I stand.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Yeah, and I think from what we heard, it looks like the lots that are in Milton, now it makes a little bit more sense when you hear the ratio of how many homes are in Cherokee and Forsyth, and the distance for the water supply. I don't see an issue with the conflict waiver, and I'd like to see what you come up with for IGA.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Okay. Okay. All right, with no other, do we have any, Councilmember Moore?
Peyton, sorry. Thank you for a chance to weigh in. Ken, I do support the conflict waiver. I would just only ask that you take seriously into consideration what the capacities are of the Forsyth placed Manor package sewer solution. I remember correctly early in dealing with those guys, there was at least a brief failure, if not some sort of a spill. I want to make sure that this additional capacity is something that package plant can handle with plenty of reserves, that we don't encounter a nearby neighbor having another failure.
Understood, Councilmember Moore. Thank you. I will talk to my folks about that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree with that too, because I know what's different here is we won't have the authority on that part. If it was in Fulton County and it was something that was sanitary sewer, we would be looking at capacity before you'd approve. That would be part of the process. So I would just ask that you also make sure, as Forsyth and Cherokee look at it, because we do service the manor, that does impact homes in our city, that we just take a look at that.
That is true. That is accurate.
Thanks.
Tammy, do we have any public comment?
We do not, sir.
Okay, close public comment, and I'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve agenda item number 22-30. Nope, got the wrong one.
20-293.
Yeah, that we approve agenda item number 22-293.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Cookerly and a second from Councilmember Morrig to approve agenda item number 22-293. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? That's unanimous.
Council.
Thank you. Will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
That item B is consideration of a resolution adopting the Capital Improvement Elements 2022 Annual Update relating to the city's impact fee program. It's agenda item number 22310. Ms. Jackie Lim.
Thank you. Mayor and council, good evening. My section is very, very short. It's just for formality. So I'm here to present to you the capital improvements element annual update for adoption. And just a quick recap of the process. This document was first introduced to you as a work session item early in August. And then there's a public hearing during the council meeting on August 15th. And for which the council approved a resolution authorizing the transmittal of the draft document for ARC and DCA review. And we received a communication from both agencies where they said that they determined that the CIE annual update is consistent with the impact fee requirements and the standards of local comprehensive planning. So Mayor and Council, the CIE annual update is ready to be formally adopted by the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Any public comment?
There are none.
All right, close public comment, and we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item number 22-310.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Morgan, a second from Councilmember Jacobus to approve agenda item number 22-310. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, please call the next item.
That next item is consideration of a land acquisition agreement for purchase of realty totaling 34.40 acres with a purchase price of $3,500,000 between the City of Milton and Peggy B. Bates and Lee B. Bates for parcel 1, approximately 10 acres, parcel with situs address 0 Hopewell Road, with assigned tax number parcel 224770-0909089. Parcel 2 is approximately 1 acre parcel with situs address of 13480 Hopewell Road, with assigned tax number parcel is 4780-0964-0915. Parcel 3 is approximately 23.4 acres parcel with situs address of 13482 Hopewell Road, with the assigned tax parcel of 224780-0964-0923. Agenda item number 22311, Parks and Recreation Director, Mr. Tom McElveen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What I have for your consideration this evening is the approval of a land acquisition contract to acquire 3 properties of land adding up to 34.40 acres off Hopewell Road. This property will be earmarked for future active and passive parks expansion. The acquisition of these 3 properties is supported by multiple Milton planning documents. The 2027 Comprehensive Parks and Recreation Master Plan called for an additional 40 to 60 acres of active space be developed to accommodate the population and level of service demands. The acquisition of Legacy Park in 2020 got us 8.5 acres closer, but the rest of that recommended acreage from this planning document has not been acquired to date. Additionally, land acquisition is supported by the city's strategic plan under priority number 3, goal 1, to develop and maintain active park spaces and facilities where all Milton residents can enjoy recreational opportunities. Finally, the comprehensive plan's short-term work program called to begin the process to acquire land for active park space in accordance with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. In tonight's presentation, I'll quickly go over an overview of the property, where it's located, and some details on the land acquisition contract. Here, I'd like to orient you with where the property sits within the city limits. On this map, it is the red property outlined by the blue circle right here. You'll be able to see on the next slide, but a great feature to this location is the property's proximity to Providence Park. I would also like to show what this acquisition would do for the geographic locations of our active recreational parks within the city. The addition of this property would distribute the parks throughout the city rather nicely. As you can see here, this is the property that we're discussing this evening. Here's Bell Memorial Park, the Milton City Park and Preserve, and then over here we have Legacy Park. Here's a zoomed-in map with the properties outlined in blue. The 3 properties add up to 34.40 acres, and now you can see that connectivity to Providence Park that I had mentioned before. With that connectivity, a more robust trail system could be implemented throughout. The addresses are 13480 Hopewell Road, 13482 Hopewell Road, and 0 Hopewell Road. And as you can see here, Cooper Sandy Creek does run through the property and does end up dumping into Lake Providence. Here are the details of the contract. The purchase price is $3.5 million with our due diligence period of 90 days where we go through and do our surveys and environmental and everything. And then if everything checks out, we got a closing date 30 days from the end of due diligence. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for Tom?
Good work.
Yeah, we're excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good stuff. I know we've been working on this for a long time, so I think the community will be excited when it's all said and done. So
Ready for a motion?
I'll think about it. Of course, go for it. Go for it.
Well, I got to bring the horses in at some
Yeah,
point.
go for it.
Agenda item, Mr. Mayor and Council, I make a motion, we approve agenda item number 22-311.
Second.
Okay, have a motion or any public comment?
There are
All
none,
right.
sir.
Make sure I have a motion from Councilmember Cookerly and a second from Councilmember Jacobus to approve agenda item number 22-311. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks. Okay, will the city clerk please tell the next item?
Mayor, that next item is item D, consideration of a joint settlement agreement between the cities of Alpharetta and Milton and Fran Schoenthal McQueen for the full and final release of claims. Agenda item number 22-312, City Attorney, Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you have in front of you this evening a comprehensive settlement agreement between Fran Schoenthal McQueen. Ms. McQueen was the city's former city court solicitor, as well as the city court solicitor in Alpharetta. Earlier this summer, certain demands were made with respect to both Milton and Alpharetta, claiming potential civil liability by Ms. McQueen based upon her cessation of services as the solicitor for Alpharetta and Milton. Based upon negotiations that have been ongoing since that time, we now bring to you for your ratification a settlement agreement that will be comprehensive and that will completely insulate Milton with respect to Ms. McQueen's threatened claims. Milton is a non-contributing party with respect to the monetary component, but will derive the full benefit of the release. This would be a release where no one is admitting any fault or liability whatsoever. This is simply a compromise to enjoy and buy the peace by the city of Milton. And now I have gone over what I believe to be the substantive terms of the agreement. Mr. Mayor, this is up to the council for approval. Should you wish to, I will tell you, I believe that this is an agreement that should be consummated by the city.
Thank you again. Any public comment?
There are none, sir.
Okay, I'll close public comment. Any council discussion?
How much?
$100,000.
But we're not paying anything. That's the city of Alpharetta.
Alpharetta pays it.
Okay. Open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion, we approve agenda item number 22-312.
Second.
It's close. I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Johnson to approve agenda item number 22-312. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, well, city clerk, please say on the next item.
Consideration of a resolution of the City of Milton extending existing combined moratorium on the acceptance of new alcohol applications for craft beer and wine markets. Mr. Attorney, can I?
You want to read the whole thing?
All of that? Hold on.
Mr. Mayor, I think I said earlier that that agenda item only had to be read one time.
Yep.
Formidable. But Mr. Mayor, this is the same presentation, and as the city manager mentioned to you, this will expire either on November 22nd or it will expire by its own terms when you take action on Chapter 4.
Okay. Any public comment?
There are none.
Okay, I'll close public comment. Any discussion, questions? Okay, we'll open it for a motion.
All right. Ready? Okay. Mr. Mayor and Council, I recommend we approve agenda item number 22-309.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Cookerly and a second from Councilmember Jacobus to approve agenda item number 22-309. Any council discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. Please call the next item.
Mayor, that next item is item F, a consideration of a resolution of the City of Milton extending the time period of the Milton Election Feasibility Committee to exist and complete its work. Agenda item number 22313. Ms. Stacy Inglis.
Good evening. Try to make this quick so you can get those horses in. So the Election Feasibility Committee has met and multiple times since the creation of the committee on April 18th, 2022. We are nearing the completion of the work. We just need a little more time. And so the resolution before you, while it says it's an additional 180 days, we do not believe it will take that long. The council, obviously, you have the right and the freedom to change the time frame in which that the request if you want to. The only thing that we were thinking as a committee was that we're running into holiday season quickly. Crazy to think about that, but yes, we're running into holiday season quickly. The time frame in which the members have the ability to meet is diminishing. We do have 3 scheduled meetings on 10/24, November 10th, and December 1st. While we believe that we can get everything done within that time frame, we just want to make sure that we had enough time just in case.
I've talked to the non-staff committee members. What I'd like to suggest, because the goal really is to get this to a vote this year. So to get a presentation before council where council can review and then make the decision, I would like to just adjust that and actually have the extension expire on December 31st, 2022. And the goal is, our goal would be to actually present this to you in November. So it could be a vote. And if we had to extend it again, if that happens, if something unforeseen, then I'd be open. But I'd like to have it be wrapped up this year. And if we had to extend it, we could always bring it back if we had to at that time.
I have a question though. Is that just preferred? Or, I mean, we're not up against any kind of a thing with Fulton County that we would have to declare ourselves. So
No.
it's just preferred. Does that put a hardship on the staff? Because if we're just talking a month, does it matter?
Well,
We roll into
you're actually
January.
talking 3 additional months if you did 180 days. That I think where I'm coming from is, I think it would be important for council to make a decision in 2022 if we're going to, in fact, we have if, let's say, council voted for this, that we were going to administer, the sooner we know that, the better it is to actually start staffing, start looking at equipment, procurement, whatever would go along with that, whatever the committee comes forward and recommends. So that's kind of why I would prefer, instead of us saying we're going to extend it out into next year, let's put it where it ends on December 31st, 2022. If something happened unforeseen where we needed to extend it, we could always come back, because the goal is to actually, the committee wants to bring forward and present the facts and do it in a professional manner, so it's been well vetted. We have, like Stacy said, we've made a lot of progress. I think we're close. Now it's a matter of just focusing, and we've even, in some of our meetings, we've actually gone longer. We're trying to get the work done, trying to do the work, and then it's a matter of putting the presentation together, which Paul or I are not going to be presenting to the council. Somebody else.
I got two.
So it's for the
how much time
elections
do
in
you think we need?
23, correct?
So I got 2 really quick questions, because I don't have a strong opinion. One, is this the commission, is this what y'all want? Is this what the entire commission wants? And then 2, does it, if we extend it 3 months or 6 months, y'all can still come to us whenever you want, right?
Yeah, I guess it's more, we originally wanted to get this done earlier, and then we got delayed on when we got started, because originally we wanted to be by fall, have the decision made where it could be presented. But we then ran into where we had formalized the committee. That put us back almost 3.5, 4 months. So we lost a little bit of time on the front end. I think the goal here, whether the council approves it or doesn't approve it, is to be able to come to a decision and to do it this year. And I only speak for me. I've heard from 2 other committee members. I think they're of the same mindset. I'll defer to Paul to speak for himself.
Well, listen, I think it's good work. It's appreciated. don't like to put a burden on staff if staff is saying they need more time.
Can I just comment on that? Staff has been there to give advice and counsel.
Mhm.
Staff is working with us, Stacy and Tracy, but it's the committee actually giving the input.
Tammy.
Tracy said Tammy, but she's confused.
Tracy said we're taking all the credit.
Did I say Tracy?
Yeah, it's all good.
I saw Tracy out there in the audience. Tammy, I know you, Tammy. And then I'll let Paul talk. But my view is it shouldn't be a hardship on staff because we've gathered most of the data. All of us have worked on it. I don't see it as hardship. Paul can make his comments. So Carol, I don't see it as, in
But we
fact,
didn't
I would.
let staff answer.
Well, we can have them answer.
Okay.
I would think that in essence, the sooner you make the decision, the better it will be for staff. If the council, in fact, decides that they do want to take on, and instead of doing the IGA with Fulton County, we want to administer our own. I think the sooner you make that decision,
I hear you.
then you actually have to get to the work of, okay, let's start planning what we need to do.
I have no problem. I'd say, I know we're not going to be talking about this 6 months from now for sure. I thought maybe a couple months, but I don't have a strong opinion. One way- I don't have a strong opinion.
Sometimes setting that deadline though gets the work. I mean, we've been in a lot
I
of
don't have a strong
situations
opinion.
where if you set
Yeah.
that dedeadline,
I just want to make sure that the committee that y'all talked about this, and this is.
Well,
what y'all
that's
want.
where you guys
Yeah.
can comment, Paul can comment.
Paul,
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to weigh in. I think Rick has done an excellent job of portraying some of the discussion that took place after the last meeting. I think when we all walked out of the meeting, everybody initially thought that 6-month window was reasonable for all the considerations that each of you have brought up this evening. However, there isn't one of us on the committee of 6 that has suggested that we believe it's overburdensome to believe that we believe we can present to you our findings by November. And so to extend beyond that with something that's way beyond what's really necessary, I think Rick has properly reflected some of the discussions he's had with some of the other members of the committee. And I support where Rick is trying to go with this.
And I guess to Rick's point, we can always extend it if you want to.
Yes,
If we had to.
absolutely.
We just know December is basically not going to be a month where you're going to get a lot done. So the goal, I think, from the committee is the sooner the better. And again, I don't think we've rushed it. We've had a lot of detailed discussion. We've tried to involve the state where we had questions on legal issues. So I think the goal was to not put it into 2023, but have the decision one way or another, up or down, in 2022, and then we know which direction we're going to go for 2023.
Okay. Any public comment?
There are none.
All right, Rick, you want to make the motion?
Sure, I'll make a
Real quick,
motion.
Councilmember, just real quick, if you're going to do that, so there's 2 elements that'll be changed in the resolution. One, paragraph 1 anticipates an additional 180 days. It'll actually be 89 now if we're going to the end of the year.
89.
And then it'll end December 31st, 2022, or when the Election Feasibility Committee makes its recommendation.
Okay. Can I go with what Ken said?
So moved.
As long as Kent says so.
So
Okay,
moved.
I've captured it.
Okay,
bear with me
I
just
I
one
agree
more,
with
please.
those. I mean, we want to, so the motion would be to approve agenda item number 22-313 with the change from 180 days to 89 days, no later than December 31st, 2022, or whenever the recommendation comes forward from the committee.
Good?
second.
Okay. Any council discussion? Well, I first got to repeat the motion. I have a motion from Councilmember Morgan, a second from Councilmember Jacobus to approve agenda item number 22-313 with the modifications that were requested. We good? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. Mayor and council reports. 2 quick things. Lost meeting this Friday all day. I'll be downtown where I've been every other Friday. Hopefully we'll come to some agreement. And Crab Apple Fest was fantastic. I tell you what, city did a great job on postponing their decision and ended up being probably the best thing for this community and the businesses in a long time.
Yeah.
So
Talked
appreciate
to a
all
lot
the
of
work.
people. It was outstanding.
Awesome.
Really did a
It
great
really
job.
was.
Maybe a spring event in March might be coming. I don't know. Anita's probably hiding somewhere, but
She's probably recovered.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought, just comment, I thought it was awesome too. It was probably, from the years I've seen since we resurrected it when it used to be an antique fair only, I think that was probably the most well-attended. It was solid right up until 5 o'clock. And then I understood, someone told me that they could hear the music over on the green into the evening. So I don't know if they had a band over there in the
And a
evening.
concert.
Neighbors would say, hey, we were listening to the music going into the evening. So
That's great.
Good stuff. Anybody else? Okay. So that concludes our regular meeting, and we'll need a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss land acquisition, personnel, and potential litigation.
so moved.
Second.
All right, have a motion from Councilmember Morgan, a second from Councilmember Johnson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. No opposed. All right. Convene.
Cool little town.
That's great. Good for you.
Motion. All right, Andrea.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Latitude.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion.
Rick, and then Juliet. Good night, everybody.
This is good.